Wrap me in a bolt of lightning, send me on my way still smiling. Maybe that's the way I should go, straight into the mouth of the unknown. I left the spare key on the table. I never really thought I'd be able to say I merely visit on the weekends. I lost my whole life in a different...
Hello, I am Nayu Semenova, here to tell you a wonderful, a story about a certain person you are all made well aware of. Nayu Semenova's fanfic of Princess Elizabeth the First. 013. In a kingdom known as DeviantArt, there is a fandom known as Sonic the Hedgehog, where there ruled Sonic the Hedgehog fans. Born to this lovely fandom is a rather obnoxious, spoiled, rotten to the core princess. Unbeknownst to the kingdom was just how evil this child was. How evil was she, you may ask? Quite evil indeed. But no one had a clue. As to many, she was just a child that many would just thought that all she needed was a little parenting, counseling, and yes indeed, mothering, tutoring, to get rid of her phobias and a number of other issues. Young Princess Elizabeth was born into quite a genuine kingdom, and thought she herself was rather kind and caring, taking a number of bullshit quizzes where she obviously rigged it to the point where she gained kindness, compassion, caring, while in only the Sonic the Hedgehog quizzes did it show her true and honest colors. Honestly, this young lady had no idea how to really take a quiz with honesty. But back to the story. Young Elizabeth was a Christian. A Christian that was supposed to be good. In her opinion, she looked up to Hitler. In our little fair story, Hitler was a good man. He killed the Jews, but did it in all good deeds. So, what does this say about Elizabeth? Well, that she would kill the gays in much the same manner, of course. In her opinion, gays deserved much the same suffering as the Jews did when Hitler was around. Oh yes, did I also mention that she was raised by obviously bullshit parents who taught her that, who took her to Christian school, where she was taught that gays are nothing more than people who need to be bullied and harassed, and taught that they are nothing more than mere figments of altered creation, and that they should not have existed in the first place, that they were mere mistakes of God's fat ass, and that God just accidentally said, oops, I think we accidentally put the genitals in the wrong place. No, I think the devil just accidentally gave birth to you. That's my honest opinion. I think we have the Antichrist here. And so, as time would go on, young Elizabeth would continue on her little rampage, especially after the king and queen had died. But first, she had to gain immortality. Elizabeth would search countless hundred books to find ways of immortality, but realized that being a Christian, she had to gain it through God. So she decided to put on the good girl act for a bit. Then decided to put on a show. Without God knowing, she set the stage and put a building on fire where many people died. Her not giving two shits about it, while people suffered and burned, all of them happening to be gays. Face it, people, if they were gay, she wouldn't give two shits about it. However, there was one straight baby in there, and she rushed in with great heroic dignity and pride to save this one baby while ignoring the screams of the many gays burning within the building, suffering the many horrible hells they were enduring in that fire, and came out with it, saying there was no hope for them. God, seeing it, yet not sure if she was telling the truth, gave her her immortality, and thus a hellish princess with immortality was born. And God had this to say: "Oh, holy, I cannot believe I gave this bitch immortality. And why did I just bleep out shit? I'm God, for Christ's sake." As time would go on, this little princess would send hundreds to their doom in the great kingdom called Deviantart. For their safety, gays and lesbians would soon flee from the kingdom of Deviantart. The fandom called Sonic the Hedgehog would soon flee as well. Many would see her as a threat, and many would try to troll her. Many rants were then ensued, as people would constantly rant on the little princess. She then made these ridiculous rules called laws in her kingdom, where if anyone dared to post an image of her, or a wanted image of her dead by death, that person would have to pay a fee of $500, which in the kingdom of Deviantart, that was impossible to pay. But still people did it anyway because it was funny. And it was free to do. And it was hilarious. Princess Elizabeth continued on her rampage, condemning and condoning all of her shitty stuff. And then she decided to do it even worse, blaming it on her autism. Her autism was her excuse, and how it was to blame for all her shitty actions. Oh, how sweet revenge was. Her haters continued it, is what she thought. The kingdom was against her, but she didn't give two shits. As long as she had her white knights who were loyal to her, she didn't give two flying fucks about it. And how her white knights would defend her. At least until they found out about what she did. Finally, someone was condemned to death and nearly suffered it until an angel came from heaven and saved her valiantly. Oh, the humanity, the humanity. And yet Erin, aka Princess Elizabeth, never gave two flying shits about it. Erin's reputation as the queen of DeviantArt was ever dark and unruly, as if this kingdom was already a piece of shit. This kingdom was now to the point of being a piece of golden crap. The DeviantArt police noted how unruly she was being and suspended her for her actions. The Golden God spoke his word, and thus Elizabeth was suspended for being the queen. And how Erin hated it, being in the dungeon for all that time, just for how she acted. Erin plotted, Erin thought, Erin foiled, Erin hated. Her rage began to boil within her like a volcano about ready to erupt. Her time in that dungeon was starting to dwell on her. Instead of having the opposite effect of teaching her manners and teaching her respect, to show better care for her fellow deviants and fellow members of her kingdom, how to teach people, especially those in which she ruled over, Erin now came back with a furious force, condemning more. Her petitions, her laws were now worse than ever. The petitions got worse. And then it happened. In an effort to quell the Queen's wrath, someone of high technological feat got a hold of her information. And this time, she was in deep pile of shit. Now Princess Elizabeth was on ED tabloids. And boy, was it sweet. Princess Elizabeth threw a tantrum like never before. And everyone enjoyed it. But only to a point. As a person came forward stating she nearly killed herself for the Queen after how harshly she had been treated by her. The Queen showed no mercy. The Queen showed no innocence, no kindness. Despite her icons, the quizzes, despite her claiming she would save a baby, despite her saying she was the kindest in all the land. More like she was Snow White's evil mother, Princess Elizabeth, aka the Queen of the Sonic Empire, was now Queen of the Sonic Fan Brats. To be Queen to Chris Chan. As soon as she began riling about, throwing her tantrums, condemning even more to death, people began to leave the kingdom known as Deviant like waves, and the kingdom's god, seeing this, infuriated, but in fear that they would lose their precious kingdom, decided the best course of action was to ban Elizabeth and exile her from the kingdom forever. And thus comes the end of part 1 of Princess Elizabeth, Queen of the Fanbrats. I hope you enjoyed my little fanfic, and I hope you enjoyed it thoroughly. How this piece of shit, lovely, isn't she? Just thoroughly pisses everyone off and just doesn't give two flying fucks about how everyone cares. I would also like to admit that people have tried to change her. Her tutors, her teachers, her classmates, her fellow deviants, even members of the royal fandom have tried to change her. And yet, this little piece of shit never learned how to take a hint. But, ever since getting on the tabloids, Princess Elizabeth, shunned from her kingdom, only infuriated her more. Stay tuned for part 2, where Princess Elizabeth goes to take on a new kingdom called Fur Affinity.
Wrap me in a bolt of lightning, send me on my way still smiling. Maybe that's the way I should go, straight into the mouth of the unknown. I left the spare key on the table. I never really thought I'd be able to say I merely visit on the weekends. I lost my whole life in a different. I've said it so many times, I would change my ways, no, never mind. God knows I've tried.